Kaden, can you come back?
Okay, let's get into it. So first we're gonna comb the hair out. As you can see, I'm starting from the swirl of the hair in the top of the crown. It's a better place to start because it shows me the direction of the hair. Now, always remember, when you're combing the hair out, you're not just combing it just to lay it down. You're combing it to actually see if there's any sores, or to see if there's any tenderness, or to see if there's any dead spots, or cowlicks. You're looking for all of that. It's basically your first cut before the cut is the comb. So the combing out of the hair is super important, and you have to do it. So all you barbers out there, if you're not doing that first, you're just getting right into the cut, you kind of taking the wrong, starting off wrong, should I say. Okay, so next we're gonna get into cutting the hair down. This is all part of the process. First we're gonna ask the client what they want, of course, have that consultation with them, and then we're gonna comb the hair through and see if any blemishes are there or anything, and then we're gonna get into cutting the hair down, cutting the bulk out. Now, you don't have, some people start like this, some people don't. I've seen people started with the fade first and then go into cutting the hair down, but I prefer to cut the hair down first, because when I fade, I get the true blend. So I don't have to cut it down and then come back and blend it, a second time, because when I cut it down, it gave me a different look. With this technique and routine, I don't have to do that. So I cut it all down first and get it how I want. So what I want to do is continue cutting the hair down, following the hair pattern as I combed it out. I'm mimicking the way I combed it is the same way I'm cutting it. I'm looking for those grains going in a certain direction so I can slide my clipper across. Okay. When you're doing this, I suggest that you go over the head at least twice. No less than twice. 3 times is good. Some people even, right now you can see I'm using my big blade, my big clipper, and then I come back over with my masters. So I go over twice with my big clipper, and then I come back with my master to knock out the fine hairs that's on it. So I'm not really cutting hair down at all with my masters. All I'm doing is getting the little fine hairs that my big clippers missed. Okay, same motion. I'm following the pattern of the hair all the way around, the same way I would if I was combing it, the same way I would if I was using my big clipper. I'm doing the same thing with the masters. There is a guard on there. That guard is a 1.5 because his hair, he did want a wavelength. Now, there is different versions of wavelengths. Some people have thick wavy hair. Some people have tight waves. It just depends. So, you choose your own, just use your own discretion on what tool you're going to use to cut the hair down based on that. You might be in a situation where you can't use a bulky clipper. You might be in a situation where you have to start with your masters. You see, because you can control how big the blade is. Master detachments, they go up to 8s, right? So with the big blade or my big clipper, I probably can't go up nothing to a 2 or 3. So, and it takes out not enough hair sometimes, and it takes out too much hair at times. So you kind of have to use your discretion, as I said earlier. So once I cut it all down, I get into starting my blending, right? This client wanted a taper fade, a high taper. So we're going to taper the back and high taper the sides. Now, I do fade from the bottom up, There are different fading techniques. Some people like fading from the top down. It's just all about what you're comfortable with, and please do what you're comfortable with. Don't do what I'm doing or someone else is doing. Do what's comfortable for you. Your eye is your eye. You can't make nobody else see what you see, and I can't make nobody else see what I see. Right? So I start from the bottom of the fade, balding it out, and I fade upward accordingly using the right blades. I do use all kinds of clippers to blend. I don't have to have a fast feed. I don't have to have my masters. I don't have to have a big, detachable blades. I don't have to have. I can switch it up. I kind of prefer to switch it up because it keeps me prepared. For anything. I've been in situations where I forgot a clipper on a home cut. I've been in a situation where one of my clippers broke on me during a cut, and I couldn't use nothing but another type of clipper. So, I've had my fair chance of experience with, using different clippers to do different things. So, we're doing nothing but keeping it basic here by going through the steps. We started out balding, then I'm quite sure we went to a closed fast feed. Then we went into open, but here we're using the big clipper. So I'm quite sure we went from a triple out to a 1 to a 1A to a 1/8 to a 2. We just keep going up and keep going up until we reach the top of that nape, right? The area where I'm at now, that's considered the nape, or where the head starts to protrude from the neck. That's where I want my fade to land. That's exactly where I want it to be, to come out of that nape area and fall along the neckline real nice and blended. Now remember, the old rule is however you go against the grain, you have to go with the grain. Right? You can't just go against the grain and comb it down and think you're good. You have to go against the grain, comb it down, and go with the grain, just to make sure that blend looks smooth and seamless. Right? So never forget that. That's on anything you do. Any part of the head you are on, beard, head, I don't care what it is. If wherever you use the clipper to go against the grain with, make sure you come back and go with the grain to clean it up. So that's what we're doing here with the back of the neck or the back of the taper here with my client. As you can see, the technique we're using is the point cut, where we're just going along the bottom of that fade, knocking out any kind of loose hairs that may be causing a hard line, or a line hard enough that I can see. Right? I like that seamless transition, so I don't like no lines in my transition. So point cutting is a very great technique, a very good technique to use when fading. I'm gonna take this time out right now. All this point cutting and these techniques you may see on here, you might have seen them before. You might use them yourself. You might not have seen them before. But either way, just understand that it's very necessary. I do mention this in my ebook, 3 Keys to a Great Haircut. If you haven't checked it out already, please do. You can go online, click the link in the bio, and check it out, man. Great information. I guarantee you that these techniques and routines will upgrade your clientele tenfold, man. Tenfold. Get that last little touch of cleanliness, that last little touch of cleanliness along the neckline, making sure we got all that. I kind of like to keep that clean as possible because that determines how fast the haircut grows back. One thing I love to do for my clients is to, be intentional with my cutting, so their haircut can last the longest. A lot of my clients, they come every week, but then you have those that like to come every 2 weeks or longer, and they want their haircut to last as long as possible. So only way to do that is to give them intentional cuts. If you want a bald fade, I'm giving you a bald fade. I'm not giving you a light fade considered a bald fade. That's only bald in certain areas. I'm giving you a bald fade. If you want a light fade, I'll give you a light fade. Okay? But I'm very intentional. If you don't want any fade, I'm not giving you any fade. If you want a hard line, I give you a hard line. You want a soft line, I give you a soft line. But I'm very intentional about what I'm doing because I want the haircut to last. As you can see, I'm using my small miniature shavers. That's to get the little fine hairs. That maybe adds another day to the haircut. And you'd be surprised how a long-lasting haircut can gain you a long-lasting client. You see, a lot of people, clients devalue barbers because they feel like the haircut doesn't last. Man, I'm about to pay $50 for a haircut, and man, I'm gonna need another one in a few days, right? Or to my enhancement barbers, man, I'm paying $60, $70 for this haircut, man, and the color doesn't stay in, the enhancement doesn't stay in, but for 2-3 days. Then I'm gonna have to come back and do it again. Right, so they feel like they're being robbed. I never want my clients to feel like I'm robbing them, or I'm wasting their time or their money. So what I do is I try to, be intentional about my cuts. If I'm balding in an area, it's gonna be bald. If I'm fading in an area, it's gonna be faded. You see, we're knocking the bulk out. We get to see we're going with the grain as well as against the grain. We're doing what we can to make this haircut last. Now that we faded the back, we're going on to the side. All fades should start with a guideline. All fades. Now, I can fade without doing a guideline. And all my seasoned barbers, they know what I'm talking about. I don't have to have that line. But it makes for consistent work when you add that line. So I want to make sure that all my work is consistent. This client expects their fade to be in the same area every time. You see? So I don't want to be 1 week I'm way above the hairline, fading too high, or I dropped it too low, the fade too low, and now it's not lasting long. You see what I'm saying? So that guideline keeps me where I always remember, okay, this is where his guideline should go. Right? This is how intentional you should be about a haircut. It's more than just, hey, sit down, let's start cutting. You want to be as consistent with this client, so you make sure everything you've used that first time cutting their hair that they liked, that routine, that service that you provided that they like, make sure you're consistent with that. Right? Consistency builds clientele as well as cutting. Okay. A lot of barbers can vouch for this, especially if you worked in shops. I've seen barbers that's totally packed out, but not as skillful with the cut. And then I've seen barbers who are skillful with the cut, but not as packed out. We're fading the hair, fading that line out, that guideline out, right? You go into the bulk a little bit just to make sure that transition of the fade is real smooth. There I go, going with the grain to make sure that fade is super smooth. Okay, flatten it out. Flatten that fade out. There's nothing worse than a bushy fade. And that fade is supposed to be laid down and transition. Nice. Don't be scared to go into the bulk. You might only have to go into the bulk just going with the grain, going smaller. Right? That area, if you cut it down with a 1.5, don't be scared to go with a 1 to cut down at the. Don't be scared to go into the middle, to the top of that fade or the middle of that fade with a 1 with the grain. Okay. We're just making sure we got that transition going real good. We're getting that blend super tight using our point technique, using our gliding technique. See, I'm using my outliners to get the bottom of that line. You know, the do-rag, you know, people should know, barbers should know that their do-rag imprints that hair into the skin, into the scalp, especially around that tie area, around the forehead and behind the ear, right? If that hair that grows there, it's trained to go a certain direction and it's embedded in that hair. So, you know, you might have to come back with the T outliners and just to get that line out. If nothing else will do. 3 out, 5 out, nothing. Normally, also when I'm cutting hair, I normally like to focus all on one side. I see a lot of barbers, they turn the chair constantly, you know, going from one end to the next, trying to do the same thing all the way around. I kind of like to do the opposite, to where I focus only all on one side. Everything I want to do on that side, I'm doing it on that side. So when I turn them around, I can focus on that one side. Okay. I also think that cuts down on spinning the client around continuously, you know, trying to make them dizzy or something. Or like you're a chair, a barber chair DJ mixologist or something. Pick you one side, focus. Pick you another side, focus. This will add to your clientele. I'm telling you. Because you're going to see stuff that you didn't notice because you steady moving them around. Right? If you focus on that one side, you know exactly how you want it to look, and you're going to make it look that way. You don't have to worry about the other side, nothing that. You're focused. When you're doing the back of the taper, do that taper. Focused. Right? When you're doing that one side, that side taper, focus. Super focus. Right? Let that hair talk to you. With me and the hair are having a conversation. I may be my lips may be moving, talking to the client, but my brain and the hair are having a silent conversation that's very intense. Super intense. Because I only want the best for my client, you know. Getting that high taper right. Made my guideline, you see. You see, I made that guideline. This angle right here will show better on how I go into the bulk. Right? Because it's very crucial when you're fading to go into the bulk. Right? If you cut the hair down with a 1.5, going with the grain, that means that normally you can go against the grain with a 2.5 or 2, and you can get the same effect when you comb it back down. You get the same length as that 1.5 when you comb the hair back down. So I already understand that going into the bolt only includes me going up to that 2 and going and knocking out as much as I can, or going to that 1.5 against the grain and knocking out as much as I can. You see, here I am going with the grain again. Every time you're gonna see it. Every time I go against that grain on that head. Every time I go against the grain on the hair, you're gonna see me flip that clipper over and go with the grain, just to keep that fade consistent. No bushy fades. Remember, you wanna make sure that fade is flat. Well, another thing I pride myself on cutting hair with the client is that they can do whatever they want to do to this hair, and that edge up is going to be there. That fade ain't going nowhere, right? You don't want to get a good fade and you combed it in one direction with the grain and it looks beautiful, but then when you go against the grain, it's all out of whack, or you comb it in to the left or to the right, it just looks totally out of whack, or even looks like a chili bowl, right? You don't want that. You want to be able to push, comb that hair in whatever direction and you still see a great transition. The same thing on the edge up. You want that edge up to not move. You want that edge up to not move at all. So you're going to play with those fine hairs around the edge up. You're going to make sure the hair is dry and the scalp is dry. The forehead is dry. Right? Just so you can get that crispy hard line without pushing back, of course. Here it is. I finished completing my fade. Now I'm going into fading out his beard a little bit. He doesn't like a lot of faded beard off. He likes to keep as much hair as possible. So I kind of just clean up the top of the beard. Make sure it has a nice little okay blend. If you're looking at it now, you can see that fade the transition is crazy. Now we're about to get into that edge up. One of the steps there, the first steps I do is I lay the hair down with a little folding foam, with a little relaxing foam. I'm sorry. I lay the hair down with some relaxing foam, which allows the hair to lay down and relax in the direction that it's going, so I can get a true sense of where my edge up is going to land. Because I don't want to push it back, so I want to make sure the hair is where it's going to be, and lay it and edge it up as is, naturally. So to use the relaxing foam, you just put a bunch in. To use the relaxing foam, you put a nice, pretty nice amount in all over the head, and then you brush it in real good till all of the residue or the white is gone. A majority of the white is gone. You just keep brushing it in. You'll start seeing the hair relax. You'll start seeing, like they had a do-rag on or something. Now, in this process, some people do put a do-rag on. Some people brush it in, put the do-rag on, and then sit them under the dryer or hand blow dry it themselves. Now, for me, I have multiple clients in a day. I do anywhere from 10 to 12 heads a day. So my time is limited. So I don't really use the do-rag, but I do put it in and I blow dry it. It does mimic as if they had a do-rag on. So I get to see, how it's gonna look when they put the after the do-rag has been on. Also putting the do-rag on all my clients, I just think that it's just unsanitary, in my opinion, just because, how many do-rags does a barber have to put on all those heads? So like I said, I have anywhere from 10 to 12 clients a day. So that's 10 or 12 do-rags I gotta have clean every day. So I gotta wash them every day. All right. That's just not logical to me. That's a lot of extra work. So I'd rather do this, and it dries faster. When you have the do-rag on, it takes a little longer. That's why people do sit them under the dryer. But to cut down on that time, I just continually rub my hand over the head and pushing the hair down with a little bit of pressure on my hand and blow drying at the same time. This way I minimize on work with do-rags, length of time on drying, cutting down on unsanitary practices, right? Sanitation first, man. Sanitation first. Once I've done that, I blow dried it, got all the residue off of it. The head, the forehead, and all around the edge up is normally sticky and greasy from the relaxing foam. So to break that up chemically, I normally just spray up an excessive amount of alcohol on a strip, and I wipe around the edge up, the area that I'm gonna edge up, and a little bit of the hair edge, just to make sure I've got all that residue off. Using the alcohol to do this breaks the chemical bond on the forehead, and it dries the scalp a little bit so I can get that crispiness. When enhancers are using that pencil, that white pencil or beige pencil to do the chalk line, the alcohol does a good job at the chalk line as well. It's the natural way to get that natural ashy look. So I love it for that. Cuts down on products as well. I don't have to get no edge spray because the alcohol does it for me. Some of the edge spray has sticky residue on it. It leaves a sticky residue film on the forehead and around the edge up. So sometimes those don't do a good job. But the alcohol, 100 every single time. So try it next time before you pick up that edge spray, right? That surface cleaner spray. Spray you an excessive amount of alcohol on a neck strip and wipe around that edge up real good, around that forehead real good, and watch those clippers crunch just the same. When you hear that crunch, that means that hair is coming off real good, jumping off that scalp. As I mentioned earlier, focusing. I do the same thing on my edge ups, man. I focus on one side of the head first, I do all my edging on one side first, then I go to the other side and I do the same thing. I match it up in the middle. Once I've done both sides, how I like it, focus on how I want it to be and line up. Then I go into the front and make sure everything is symmetric and even. So you're going to see me on this side taking care of above the lip, drawing my little guideline around that beard a little bit, just so when I come back with the razor, I don't have to guess where I want this razor to land or want the line to land. Get behind that ear real good. You'd be surprised how many barbers don't cut behind the ear. I don't know. I don't understand what that is, but I've seen it before. Make sure you get that nice curl around that ear, man. The hair just coming off so easy. You should hear the crunch on the clippers. You also see, man, that edge up makes things come to life. You never would have saw that without that edge up, that fade being like that. Get behind that ear once again, not too high. Get that good symmetry going on that along that neckline. You don't want to push that too far in on the neck and almost have it looking like a V-neck. You want to keep it as natural as possible when you're doing this edge up. Natural, but intentional. If that's possible in your world. It's possible in my world, but natural, but a hard line. How do you guys feel about clients being on their phone or working while they're in the chair, on their laptop, conference call, whatever? How do you guys feel about that? Is that a distraction to you guys? Does it even matter? Right? Does it mess up what you're trying to do, your eye that you're trying to have on certain spots? Does it mess it up? Comment below, tell me what you guys think. I kind of don't mind it, man. As you can see, I mean, as much as I can keep their attention away from, moving or constantly looking in the mirror or something like that, it shows me that they're relaxed. It shows me that they're in a state of, trust, right? So I kind of don't mind it. I like it. I even have clients that sit in my chair and sleep. How do you feel about that? Sleeping clients. I have sleeping clients all the time. It's like this chair is just magical, man. And once they get in it, I don't care how upbeat they were when they came in. I don't care. Some of them, I don't care if I'm talking to them. They still gonna go to sleep. All right? It's just something about it. So I like to attribute that to my good spirit, right? To my good work that they can trust me on. They don't have to worry about nothing, right? So, and I let them sleep. The head bobbing and everything. I just let them go. And if I need something, I need to see something, I just turn their head or lift their head to where I need it and go from there. So what we're doing is, like I said, we do both sides in focus, and then we check the front to tie everything together to make sure symmetry is on point, make sure everything is even as possible. You know, there's nothing guaranteed about anything on this human body. You know, one arm is longer than the other. One leg is longer than the other, right? Your hairline is not perfect. Enhancements only make it look like that, and even enhancements are not sprayed on perfectly. Your edge up is still not straight sometimes, even with enhancement. After we checked everything and made sure it was all good, then we come in and get ready for that razor. This is where we put the hot towel on. You know, my technique is I put the hot towel on one side because, you know, even if I put it all over the face, I was still, by the time it was work good on one side, but then on the other side, the face then cooled down, meaning the pores then closed up a little bit, and now I have to reopen those pores. So what I do is I just take it one side at a time, open those pores first, do what I need to do, go to the other side, put a hot towel on that side, do the same thing. Since I like the skin to be soft and the hair to be as soft as possible, when I'm running the blade over it, I instantly hit the sensitive areas first, and then I go back and hit all the main areas like the edge up around the head, but around the lip, around that cheek area, I want to attack those areas first as soon as I pull the hot towel off. Once again, that makes the hair soft and the skin pores open up so you can pull the hair out easily without it snapping back or getting stuck up under the skin or anything like that. As you can see, I'm taking my time, making sure that line is real visible. As I mentioned before, you guys know I do enhancements, but I don't use enhancements or rely on enhancements for my cuts. A lot of my clients prefer the natural look. They claim for them it's a little bit too hard, maybe it looks a little bit too unnatural to them in a sense. But you give that blade a few good passes, man, I guarantee you get the same effect. If you know what you're doing. I've been doing this for 20 years, so this is like breathing in and out for me. I always go back against the grain when I'm doing the edge up. It just makes it look cleaner. If you notice how hard the line is, you can see that's with no enhancements. Just great blade work. Once again, we're gonna repeat the same on this side as we did the other side. I don't know what that was. That was like a Superman speed zoom for a quick second. We need to talk to my editor about that. Oh wait, I'm the editor. You notice I went straight to the sensitive areas right after I used the hot towel, just to make sure those areas are easily the hair is easily removed. Now remember, I'm not telling you to take my process and use it. I'm just showing you that I have a process and it makes my job easier. If you had a process or routine, it would make your job easier. You know, you wouldn't be so all over the place. You wouldn't feel overwhelmed. You wouldn't feel, uncomfortable. You want to be as comfortable and as relaxed as possible when you're cutting hair, providing any service for that matter. So the best way to do that is to have your routine down pat. I've seen different routines and none of them are wrong because it's all about what you're comfortable with. You have to complete the task at the end of the day. So why not be, in your comfort zone? This is art. So, why wouldn't you be comfortable? It's like a painter painting or a pencil artist, drawing, right? An engineer drafting, right? It's something you love to do. So it shouldn't be hard anyway. But don't complicate it even more by not having a routine, or a system that you run by. This routine also helps with not forgetting something. I remember in my younger days, I used to forget stuff. Like I worked that haircut so good. And then when they get up, I'd be like, oh man, I forgot to do that. I might have forgot to take the hair out of the ears. I might have forgot to take the hair out of the nose, right? It's just maybe I did one eyebrow, knocked out the fine hairs around the eyebrow on one side, but didn't do it on the other. I've had those moments. But ever since I've adopted my routine, whatever I do to one side of the head, I do to the other. And I make sure I do that by focusing all my attention on one side before I move to the next, on whichever step I'm on. So get your routine, man. Get your routine. Now that I've done both sides with the razor, then all I'm doing is going back over the head real lightly with a guard on my Andes trimmers and just knocking out the fine hair that's sticking up. Just makes the hair look smoother and have a smoother transition. All the detail work is coming up next. Once I've razored both sides, then I finished off the haircut with a bunch of detail work. This is when I do this step. This is when I, make sure I've trimmed around that beard if they wanted it. Sculpted that beard real good if they wanted it. This is also where I get the fine hairs inside of the ear or inside of the nose. Any loose hairs that's sticking up from the eyebrows, I knock those down. All right, you see I'm still going over the head to make sure it's clean looking with the shears. It's all about giving your client the best of you. Whatever you can do to maximize their haircut, their look, their style, man, you're gonna gain a client for life. Not everybody wants to look like a movie star or look like they're going on a photo shoot with the Beijing all in their hair all the time. The enhancements in their hair all the time. There are people out there that don't prefer that. But what they do all prefer is for you as a barber to take your time and give them the best of you. Gonna trim around that beard. Not too much. You just want to keep those ends clipped because clipping the ends helps the hair grow. So for those guys who are looking for that full beard, you have to continually pampering it, but also make sure that you're clipping those wild hairs, clipping those ends that are pretty much sometimes dead, discouraging the rest of the hair to grow. So you want to clip those ends and make sure that that hair is healthy and strong all the way through each strand. Get this hair off of this man. Once again, subscribe to the channel, Clipped Ends TV. Click for the alerts. I'll always have videos coming out to share knowledge with you guys. Also, don't forget to click the link in the bio for the ebook, 3 Keys to a Great Haircut. We talk about detailing in there. We talk about routine in there. We talk about different techniques you can use on the fade to make it better. We talk about a little bit of applying enhancements. We just share a lot of good game in there, man, that you can take advantage of and boost your clientele. For all my new barbers, all my up and coming barbers, it's great for you, man. All my veteran barbers, you know, the support is nice. You know, we out here trying to share knowledge with the up and coming generation to keep our career and our business and our platforms real live, in a sense. We want to we want to be trailblazers and leave behind a legacy for other barbers to follow. They can innovate, but there's always old school you can implement. So I appreciate you guys checking the video out. Like and subscribe, share. If you're ever in the Houston area looking for a chop, hit us up on the website, www.clippedends.com. appreciate y'all. And I'm quite sure this gentleman appreciates me for this awesome haircut. And may all your haircuts be awesome as well. Signing off, it's your boy, Big Tim, aka Blade Runner. Follow us on Instagram at ClipTins100, at Blade_Runner. Follow us on TikTok, ClipTins100. We everywhere. You can't miss us. From my barbershop to yours. We out.